So, looking forward, but then also coming back to today and the challenges that we face, Deputy Mayor Neuenhouse, on top of the pandemic, the killing of George Floyd brought issues of racial injustice, police use of force, and the Black Lives Movement into our hearts, our living rooms, and onto our streets. And unfortunately, as we experienced in Bellevue on May 31st, some groups took advantage of the protests, resulting in property damage and looting in our downtown. So these issues intersect with public safety, and I know public safety is a big component of the vision as we look forward too. What is Bellevue doing to help move the community forward on the issue of public safety? And can you share more about what the Bellevue Police Department is specifically doing in response?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Patrick. So with this, I hearken back to a quote by Barack Obama back in 2012, although I think he borrowed some inspiration from Abraham Lincoln when he said, "We don't have a perfect union, but we have a perfectible union." The killing of George Floyd, I think, raised an issue that's important for our community to discuss and have conversations around. The racial equity with social justice movement that has followed reminds us that we need to do more to confront racism head on. There's no doubt about that. In response to those protests, as you may have heard, the Bellevue City Council took a pledge to look at the Bellevue Police Department's use of force, safety practices, etc. That pledge commits the city to the following actions. I just want to list them off. One is to review the police use of force policy. Second is to engage the community by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories to review. Third is to report the findings of the review to the community and then seek additional feedback. And then finally is reform, to see if there's any reform that does need to be addressed or is needed to be implemented. But I think what we also learned on that May 31st that you referenced is that police is essential to the public safety of our city. I don't think this is controversial, and it should not be controversial. I think that was on full display during the rioting and looting of that day. That was a painful lesson. I think Bellevue lost a little bit of its innocence that day. That was something that was always somewhere else. That something like that could not happen to Bellevue, but it did. So I think that was a good learning lesson for us. But we have to look at the bigger picture here as much as I think some of the anger and the frustration that a lot of business owners felt that day. We can also thank the professionals on the Bellevue Police Department that thanks to their leadership and the leadership by Chief Milet, the bigger picture items of no loss of life, no arson except for I think one truck that was set on fire. There was no serious injuries. And really no violent crimes other than the tagging, the vandalism, and the looting. Now, not that that's not serious, and we are taking it very serious. And the Bellevue Police Department has actively, thanks to the wonderful residents and businesses that have captured video and photographs of those looters, the Bellevue Police Department has actively gone after as many as possible. In fact, we've already made over 23 arrests to date, and there will be more coming in the days ahead. And we are actively pressuring the King County Prosecutor's Office to make sure that they are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I think that's important for our residents and businesses to hear. So, but getting back to the continuous improvement, I think Chief Milet is making sure this never happens again. Almost immediately, there was a task force that was put together that with Seattle's Chief Best and Chief Milet and others to learn from this. Well, who were these actors? What tactics did they use? What might we do the next time to make sure that this doesn't happen again in downtown Bellevue? So, as well as improving the communication, and thanks again to the BDA and Chambers and others to be able to communicate even more quickly with our businesses the next time around, in order to be more prepared if we think this might happen again. Obviously, all of us hope that never does, but certainly we want to be prepared if it does happen. So, but I think we need to keep in mind too that the Bellevue Police Department is a world-class organization, one of the best police departments in the country, and that's not just my opinion. They are, and I'll explain to you why that is. They are nationally accredited, and to some people that might not mean that much, but when you take into consideration that only 6% of all the police departments in the country are nationally accredited, that is really saying something. The amount of work that they need to do to be accredited is quite something, and I just want to list off a few things because it's really important, because never has a nationally accredited police department ever ended up under a DOJ consent decree for a pattern of excessive force. It's never happened. So that tells you the importance of that training, because there's over 400 separate standards that they need to meet. And the training that encompasses the best practices in policing and promoting the community building and the accountability, the strong training standards that I referenced, including diversity training, de-escalation, etc. So, a lot of these things that we're doing already are exactly what some people have asked us to review. And we're happy to do that because we are always open to a continuous improvement here in the city of Bellevue, no matter what department it is. But I'm so proud of our police department, have already been proactively doing so many of these things already. So, on top of that, I just want to mention as well, because Chief Milet set up these 6 different advisory groups: Black, Muslim, LGBTQI, interfaith, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple of other ones here, Asian Pacific Islander. So the Bellevue Police Department is constantly looking for input and feedback on how to improve policing, those community policing in our city. So at the end of the day, we've got a great police department. We can always get better. We're going to make sure that never happens again. And we're always open to that continuous improvement.